is a presentation of Texas Valley Sports. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It's been 3 long years since Benny Omar King coached at TVS, and it all ended in controversy. Yes, the 2018 Texas Valley Sports Championship game was probably one of the greatest games we've ever witnessed. It ended in big controversy, but definitely probably one of the highest sold games in our history, and one of the greatest games that we've ever seen. So to understand the 2018 season, which was our second season at Texas Valley Sports, you kind of have to understand the first one. And in season 1, the Far Phantoms came out. They were the very first team created at Texas Valley Sports, and this team was loaded, right? It had 3 ex-NFL players, a few former arena players. I mean, this was the squad to beat in semi-pro football down in the Rio Grande Valley, right? It definitely garnered lots of attention with this team, and they put a target on their back, in my opinion, because, well, they touted themselves as the best, and it's what riled up a lot of these other teams to rise up and take on the challenge, right? And the Far Phantoms were upset in the playoffs. They got upset in the playoffs by the McAllen Mavericks. So that was season 1 basically in a nutshell. And in the off season, right, the Far Phantoms went through a coaching transition, right? So one coach was no longer there, transitioned into a new coach, Coach Juan Villalpando. He ends up taking over this team with a different mindset completely, and he's looking to rebuild. Off of this great team, he's still looking to rebuild and improve. And there was coming into season 2, it was like, all right, who's going to be the top dog, right? You had the McAllen Mavericks, who had previously upset the Far Phantoms. You had the Far Phantoms coming back hot and angry as well, because they wanted to avenge their loss. You had the Harlingen Dragons, who were getting better and better by the moment, with Michael Allen out there. You had the Donna Aztecs, which definitely had numbers. They were loaded with numbers. New talent was always coming in there. But then you also had Benny King coming in. Fufu Russell was the coach of the Mercedes Hammerheads. And coming into season 2, they changed their name, they changed their colors, they changed their whole personality, and they became the Palmview Pitbulls. And Fufu reached out to Coach Benny King. Coach Benny King has been known for years to have been a really great coach in arena football, 8-man style football. So here comes Benny King into the league, and now, we're surrounded by a lot of questions like, okay, who is going to be the top dog here? The 2018 Texas Valley Sports Championship game had arrived, and only 2 teams remained. So the stage is set. The 2018 Texas Valley Sports Championship game is going to be played by the Palmview Pitbulls and the Far Phantoms. And the big question here on everyone's mind, that wasn't a Far Phantom and it wasn't a Palmview Pitbull, just by the community in general, and people that were involved in semi-pro, was how are they going to utilize Felix Carrillo? And you got to remember, in season 1, different coaching regime, different everything. Felix Carrillo was like the athlete of the year. He was probably one of the key reasons of why the Far Phantoms offense was so successful. He was just a monster on offense. This season, under the new coaching regime, Mike Alvarez was at the helm of being quarterback. And Mike Alvarez did very well. But a lot of questions on people's mind were, how are they going to utilize Felix Carrillo in this whole scheme? Because he had, throughout the whole season, been utilized on the defense now. So they put him on the defensive end of things. He was a great linebacker. And remember, he's a great athlete. He can kind of be put and plugged into many different positions. The times that they would put him on offense were like at the running back position. So, we didn't know where Felix Carrillo was going to play. And that was the excitement, kind of the wild card situation of the Far Phantoms, was where were they going to utilize Felix Carrillo. And lo and behold, at some point in the game, they put him at quarterback. So the game is underway, and the referees, they're making the calls that they see, right? The referees throughout the whole season are getting a lot of negativity from all the players in the whole league, but it's because they were consistently doing what they saw fit, right? What they were consistently doing their job. And Texas Valley Sports, we have our policy of, whatever the referees call, we're gonna go with, right? We're gonna stand by our referees because that's the way it's supposed to be. And in this game here, they set the tone early, right? They were making calls, ejecting players if they needed to, and everything was going good and consistently. Yeah, people were getting upset, but the refs were doing their job. And in the third quarter, it seemed like the Palmview Pitbulls were already taking off with the victory. They were up at some point 35 points to 14. And all of a sudden, the Far Phantoms make an offensive change. And lo and behold, Felix Carrillo comes in at the quarterback position. Now, Mike Alvarez, the Palmview Pitbulls obviously had studied Mike Alvarez. They prepared for him at the quarterback position. Well, Felix Carrillo comes in, and Felix Carrillo is, he's not as accurate, right, of a passer as Mike Alvarez, but he can throw the ball, and he's also good with his legs. And of course, the moment they put him in, this is the third quarter, they are down 35 to 14. Felix Carrillo makes an instant impact and has a huge run down the field for a touchdown. And this is where the controversy started. It was on this amazing play that seemed to shift the momentum of the game to the Far Phantoms that the most controversial call to ever be made at Texas Valley Sports happened. So Benny King gets flagged, and rightly so, right? Because he was in the wrong here. Players, coaches, they know they're not supposed to be in the way of the referee, right? And as you can see, the referee runs into Benny King. Benny King's just excited. He's in the moment. He's running down the field with his players, following the play, but there's a run-in with the referee. And there's a flag thrown, rightly so. But it turns into a bigger situation than we thought. The referee says, Benny King, you're ejected from this game. Whoa. So at first, I'm thinking, okay, what happened? There's something more to this, right? For a referee to eject a coach based on that situation, I'm assuming something bigger happened. And I talked to the referee. Referee said, look, I gave him a warning to not be close by so we wouldn't run into him. He still did it. He ran into us, and we're ejecting him. Now, you got to understand, in my position, I have to do what I feel is right. And I know that under all circumstances, every single league, whether it be college football, whether it be the NFL, commissioner does not step in and override any referee's call. They'll look at it afterwards, they'll say, hey, we made a mistake here, and move on, right? But I'm torn right now. I'm torn because this is a championship game. And TVS is not your ordinary league. Heck, we pride ourselves on, not being perfect, right? But doing the right thing. Our lines, for example, they're not even striped straight. They're not even drawn straight. It's just been a staple of TVS. TVS does things our own way. And I knew right off the bat this was going to be a very controversial situation. And if I allowed the ejection, huge controversy was going to come out. If I didn't allow the ejection, controversy was still going to be there. So at the end of the day, whatever decision I made was going to be controversial. And at the end of the day, I had to do what I felt was right. And at that time, what felt right was we have a championship game. We have a situation where, yes, a penalty flag was merited, but an ejection on a head coach in a championship game, I just didn't feel that that was the right thing to do. And the reason I didn't feel that was the right thing to do because I flip-flopped the shoe, right? I said, you know what? What if this happened to the other coach? What if that had happened? Would I do the same thing? And I said, yes, I would. So I had to make that decision. I had to do what I felt was right. And we allowed Benny King to continue to stay in the game under certain restrictions. And those restrictions were, normally a head coach can actually be in the huddle of the offense, making adjustments, talking to the quarterback directly, things like that. We removed them completely off the field. That way, we got him away from the referees. He had to stay on the sideline, but they were handicapped now in a way offensively. But of course, that didn't bode well with many people. At the same time, nobody was happy because even Benny King, that was not ejected, he wasn't too happy of being sidelined either, because he felt there was a great disadvantage to him. Same thing with the other side. The other side was like, hey, an ejection is ejection. He's got to get off the field. So at the end of the day, right call or wrong call that was made, I did what I felt was right. And at the end of the day, that's something I have to live with and have to be judged for. But at the end of the day, I did what was the commissioner's discretion, and that was to do what he felt was right. After the 2018 championship game, the Palmview Pit Bulls celebrated their victory in the most controversial championship game at Texas Valley Sports. Benny King went on to coach the Dorados and the Austin Wild, two professional arena football squads. While the Far Phantoms, they won 2 back-to-back championships at Texas Valley Sports afterward.
Well, I guess 2022 TVS season. It's been a lot over the past year or so since we did it. I guess the main question is why.
Gotta close some eyes and open some eyes again, because they didn't believe it was the first time.
Well, I always felt like we had nothing else to prove. I know that last year with the whole Austin thing, a lot was said. We did what we were supposed to do with the situation being what it was, but it's a good time because we got something else going on too. So I like it. Let's do it.
This has been a presentation of Texas Valley Sports.